Yes, thank you very much, Monsieur Peters, and thank you to all the panelists for truly inspiring speeches. It is indeed not easy to make a conclusion to this very interesting discussion. I think optimism is a moral duty. Very nice quote from Karl Popper, and I think it's also a very guiding thought in these times, which are extremely challenging. We are living in times where we're just coming out of a pandemic. We are seeing a war once again in Europe, which we haven't seen in a very long time. We have high inflation at levels that we have not seen since the 1980s. We have, of course, as a constant background, climate change, loss of biodiversity, which is a hard fact, which no one doubts anymore. So we are in this transition towards something different, economically, socially, politically. We're living in a new geopolitical world since 24th of February. Nobody knows when this war is going to end, how it is going to end, and in what state it will leave the world. And I think in this context, we need to transform our economy. We need to transition towards decarbonized economy, because we know that there is an urgency, and nowhere more, I would say, than here in Luxembourg, where we have our overshoot day on 13th of February. So I think only Qatar is doing worse in terms of carbon footprint. So I think it's we should, in all this, really not lie to ourselves. And there are really, with Pascal, we need to look at this twinning, and we all know that sometimes it is a lot of green talk, greenwashing behind all of this, and there is a tech optimism that is widespread in the business community, and which is basically this idea that you can continue the party, but by basically dressing in green rather than what you put on before. And that is really, I think, the big challenge. We need to transition. We need to take the people along, being optimist. We can't do this against the economy. We can't do it against the business sector, and we also have to take the consumers along. And I think this will be a shift that will take some time. Everybody thought that COVID-19 would be this watershed moment where everybody would we would come into a new world, but of course we all see that this is not happening. The numbers of passengers in Findel has gone back to 2019 levels. We all know that everyone is traveling like crazy and is consuming like crazy again. But I think that nevertheless, I think you need to look at the positive signs, and there are so many positive signs out there of things changing, technology, behavioral. And I think in all that, clearly, the digitization is an asset, and is something that can help us in this transition when it is used with sense, and when it is used intelligently. And I very much agree that we cannot do everything. We need to pick our niche. Here in Luxembourg, we're a small country, so let's use it where it makes sense, and I think that's what we are doing. We are using digital to enhance, to drive a data-driven economy in health, in mobility, in industry 4.0, and there are many applications where I think we have a huge potential here in this country. We also, I think, need to continue thinking ahead. That's what we started doing with the Rifkin process that started in 2015. We are now doing that with Luxembourg strategy. So have this perspective mind, try to understand what what is happening, try to understand the mega trends and what they mean for us. And that is what Luxembourg strategy is about. Also see this country as and I think that is really our unique value proposition, see this country as a world lab. We are a very cosmopolitan, a very open society, and I think we can be this virtuous world lab where we try new things, where we, being small and agile, we can move faster than many other countries in many respects. And I think if we are able to do that and take everyone along, and there are so many initiatives that we are taking, I think we can move in the right direction. Of course, we are doing all this in a European context. We know that we have this open, this autonomous, this strategic autonomy, open autonomy, which is this idea of making Europe sustainable, building up industries in strategic areas, and Luxembourg is, of course, also in that movement. But I think first and foremost, we must understand that there are boundaries to what we are doing economically. These are physical boundaries, and the crisis in Ukraine is reminding us how dependent we are on cheap energy, and that everything was running on that. So I think this is kind of a hard, kind of a rude awakening. But I think I'm really an optimist. I know it's challenging, but we are in this transition. And again, digital is a tool, formidable tool, and the greening is, of course, at the end of the day, the bigger objective behind all of this. But of course, also keeping in mind the inclusiveness. We need to do this in a socially inclusive manner, and not lose people along the way. We know that when we do, if we do that, we are going to lose the political, democratic conversation, and we know what will come out of that. We all followed the discussions in Congress about the incidents on 6th January at the Capitol last year. So I think this is a powerful reminder of what can happen if populists rise to power. So thank you for all this. It's great. Thank you for the survey. It also, I think, confirmed that what we did during the pandemic was not completely wrong. We stabilized our economy quite well, and now we need to shift towards this making this transition work. Thank you for organizing this.